Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the National Anthem of Australia. Please be seated. I now present to you the Deputy Chancellor of Monash University, Mr. Yehudi Blaisher, who will open this graduation ceremony.
Her Excellency the Governor, Mr. Chancellor, Madam President and Vice President, Deputy Chancellor, fellow members of the Council, Deans and Deputy Deans, senior management of the University, distinguished visitors, colleagues, graduates and guests. Today we proceed the conferral of degrees with a ceremony at which Her Excellency, the Honourable Linda Dessau, Governor of Victoria and visitor of the University, will install Mr. Simon McKeon as Chancellor of the University. This ceremony is being performed on the country for which the Kulin Nations have been traditional owners and custodians for many centuries. The University acknowledges their cultures and we pay our respects to their elders past and present. I now call upon Dr. Christine Nixon, Deputy Chancellor of Monash University.
Her Excellency the Governor, Mr. Chancellor, Madam President and Vice-Chancellor, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the ceremony of installation precedes what will be the 1002nd graduation ceremony of Monash University. It is my pleasure to acknowledge Dr. Jerry Ellis, former Chancellor of Monash University, and Mrs. Anne Ellis. Most importantly, I am delighted to acknowledge in the audience today the family and friends of our new Chancellor. It is also my pleasure to acknowledge the presence on the dais of Mr. George Pappas, Chancellor of Victoria University, and Mr. Graham Goldsmith, Chancellor of Swinburne University. I now call upon Her Excellency, the Honourable Linda Dessau, Governor of Victoria, to address this Assembly.
Mr. Chancellor, Deputy Chancellors, Madam President and Vice-Chancellor, graduates, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I also acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we're gathering, and I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and to any elders with us this morning. I'm delighted to be here as Governor of Victoria and visitor to Monash University to install Mr. Simon McKeon as the 8th Chancellor of Monash University. Although not a graduate of Monash myself, I am related by marriage, given that my husband's a Monash Law graduate, and I'm also related by motherhood, our 2 sons having graduated from the law faculty here. I've also grown up with this university, as it were. Of course, it's much younger than I am, but it was starting in full force more or less around the time that I was starting my professional life. So I've closely followed its evolution from its tentative first steps in the 60s through its radical life in the 70s, its maturation in the 80s, phenomenal growth in the 90s, and its manifest successes since then. Within my own discipline of law, there was a watershed moment in 2003 when, upon the Honourable Justice Marilyn Warren becoming Chief Justice of Victoria, each major court in the state was being led by a Monash graduate, with Chief Judge Michael Rosines leading the County Court and Chief Magistrate Ian Gray leading the Magistrates Court. And at the same time, the major Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal was led by a Monash graduate, the Honourable Justice Stuart Morris. It was clear that this university's reputation for outstanding vocational training in law was fully recognised and respected. But now, in my role as the Governor of Victoria, I no longer experience the myopia of my previous life, and I can appreciate the extraordinary contribution of this university far and wide and well beyond just the law. With its almost 70,000 students, Monash is not only Australia's largest university, it's also ranked in the top 1% of world universities. No doubt a great source of pride for its leaders, and I'm quick to claim it as a great source of pride for our state as well. It's clear that the vision of this university strongly aligns with Victoria's vision and interests. For Victoria, a state without mineral resources to rely on, innovation and relationships are our lifeblood. Many of our goals for innovative growth and prosperity are strongly linked to our relationships within the region. This university was one of the first Australian universities to open an overseas campus when it opened in Malaysia, a fine example of the university's outward-looking approach to education. It's also impressive that Monash has become the first Australian university to receive a licence to operate in China and to offer postgraduate degrees at the master's and PhD levels. The collaboration between Monash University and China's Southeast University in the city of Suzhou in Victoria's sister state of Jiangsu province solidifies the strong commitment that's shared between our two jurisdictions. And what an opportunity the Southeast University, Monash University Graduate School offers these students in a university located in Suzhou Industrial Park, home to almost 3,500 international companies, including more than 100 Fortune 500 companies, truly one of the most dynamic research and industrial sites in the world, and aptly described as a hub of 21st century brain power. That campus, along with the university's Italian, South African and Indian locations, are helping to solidify Victoria's reputation on a global scale. The installation of Simon McKeon as Chancellor comes at a time when Monash University is in the second year of a 5-year strategic plan. I note that the plan refers to 4 core areas: excelling in international research and addressing the great challenges of the age, developing international routes and networks, building enduring partnerships with private and public sector entities, and seeking talented students and staff from a broad array of backgrounds to ensure diversity. Well, what a fine fit the new Chancellor will be for the continued realisation of that plan, as well as the future direction and strength of this university. He has outstanding credentials in finance and banking through a long and outstanding career at the Macquarie Group, a strong understanding of science and innovation as the former chair of CSIRO, and a proven commitment to health and medicine, having chaired the federal government's strategic review of health and medical research. He's also volunteered his time and considerable talents to a broad range of not-for-profit organisations, spanning sport, Indigenous mentoring, education at different levels, and science education in particular. Mr. McKeon's talent and community contributions have been recognised with awards and decorations, including as the 2011 Australian of the Year, as an Officer of the Order of Australia in 2012, as the Research Australia's Leadership and Innovation Award winner in 2013 and as the recipient of the Australian Academy of Science Medal in 2014. This is just a snapshot. The breadth and scope of Mr McKeon's outstanding career are summarised in more detail in the programs that you have today. Now, far be it from me as a mere visitor to criticise that summary, but I'm afraid I must point out one major deficiency. What it has omitted is the new Chancellor's proven good judgment, his stoicism, and his capacity for loyalty and patience. You can probably guess, like me, the new Chancellor is an Essendon Football Club supporter. It's an honour to be here to install Mr Simon McKeon as the 8th Chancellor of Monash University. I look forward to many happy and valuable interactions during my term as Governor of Victoria. And in accordance with our state motto, I wish both the new Chancellor, his family and this university peace and prosperity. Thank you.
Your Excellency, the Council of Monash University, at its meeting on the 16th of October 2015, elected Mr Simon McKeon to serve as the Chancellor of the University through to the end of the year 2020. I have much pleasure in inviting you as visitor of the University to install Mr McKeon as the 8th Chancellor of the University.
Members of Council, ladies and gentlemen, by virtue of my authority as visitor of the University, I present to you Simon Vincent McKeon for installation as Chancellor of the University. It gives me great pleasure to invite Mr Simon McKeon to officially take his seat as Chancellor of Monash University.
I now call upon the President and Vice-Chancellor, Professor Margaret Gardner, to address this Assembly.
Your Excellency, Mr Chancellor, Madam Deputy Chancellor and Deputy Chancellor, members of the Monash University Council, our many distinguished guests, including current and former Chancellors, graduates, colleagues, guests. Every Monash graduation ceremony is a special event in the university calendar, but today's is even more so, because today we celebrate one of the most important events in the life of Monash University, the installation of a new Chancellor. This is our first ceremony of this kind since 2008, and Mr McKeon is only Monash's 8th Chancellor to be appointed in the nearly 6 decades since our university was founded. And that's really a very momentous moment. In addition to this, though, we also celebrate the achievements of another, no less important group of people, and those are the 43 doctoral candidates from 9 faculties of Monash University who will be graduating today. To every one of those PhD students at present or graduating, I offer my profound congratulations. The ceremony we hold today is formal, the rituals drawing on centuries of practice in graduations, but it also includes the particular elements that are special to Monash. Formality doesn't signal lack of enjoyment or passion. It serves to mark an occasion that joins each graduating student to the many who came before and those who will follow. And the effort of all of you here today, and I include not only those graduating but your families and friends, the efforts you've collectively made to reach this point deserve recognition. This moment deserves to be treated with a certain gravity and seriousness, because it serves as an acknowledgement that you join not only that line of graduates that dates back over more than 1,000 ceremonies at Monash to Monash's first graduation ceremony in 1964, but to an academic tradition that arguably begins with the University of Bologna in 1088. Today, the university certifies to the world that you've acquired the abilities, the deep knowledge in your field, and the capabilities that a Monash doctorate implies. They're very, very valuable things to certify and to have, but we like to think and hope that you've taken rather more away from Monash than just that certification and that set of capabilities. We hope you've forged values that reflect the ones that this university holds dear. We hope that we've contributed to your love of discovery that's expressed in the university's motto, Ancora Imparo. Those words, attributed variously to Dante and Michelangelo, translate as I am still learning, or indeed I am still discovering. It's unlikely that you got here in the first place, and you certainly didn't get into a PhD program without a healthy intellectual curiosity. But I hope your time here will have strengthened determination to understand more of what you can contribute to this world and more of this world. More importantly, I hope it's cemented in you the recognition that the hunger for knowledge can be indeed a powerful force for good. And it's that desire for discovery that's driven the university's great innovations, and they are many. And today, as we look in the program, we will see the work that you have done while you're here, adding to that grand tradition of innovation and discovery. We also hope your time here has shaped the nature and raised the level of your ambition in a way that reflects the ambition of the university itself. Monash is now recognised as being one of the world's top 100 universities, a position it's reached in less than 60 years. And particularly in research, those rankings matter, that reputation matters. But reputation is actually not where ambition resides, because a strong reputation should only ever be a byproduct of ambition. What's important is the scale and the usefulness, if you like, of the challenges that we set ourselves. Monash is a comprehensive university, so the challenges that it sets itself through its staff and its students are diverse. But as you read the short summary of the PhDs that graduate today and think about what can be done at Monash, you see the scale and the importance of those challenges, and that's where we find ambition. They involve generating provocative ideas, transformative processes to address human, environmental and economic issues that challenge us all, deepening our knowledge of ourselves and our societies, contributing to policy formation, researching how disease and conflict impact living standards of future generations, looking at new education initiatives, thinking about how environmental and trade strategies can contribute to sustainable growth, looking at how we can demonstrate leadership in areas such as human rights law, commercial law and regulation, justice innovation, looking at the way technology can transform our world, whether that's developing new solar cells for low-cost solar energy technologies, or revolutionising water management, or in fact whole new materials that will change the way we compose the very things that make up our material world. Looking at how we might deal with major areas of disease, whether that's chronic heart disease or fighting superbugs, or looking at major diseases such as malaria or Ebola. There are many, many challenges that this university is engaged in dealing with, in putting its time and its research towards. And for you, I hope you take that ambition with you, because that's the ambition that matters. And who knows what form it will take. But implicit in all these varied ambitions is the idea of service. The notion that the most noble end to which one can direct one's talents and efforts is actually the greater good. As our namesake, the great Australian Sir John Monash once wrote, "Equip yourself for life, not solely for your own benefit, but for the benefit of the whole community." And that doesn't mean that every piece of research will find the life-saving vaccine or change the trajectory of climate in our world, but that's an ambition worth having. And what you should carry with you is an awareness that the decisions you make and the actions you take in your professional and personal lives have implications for all of us. From the advantages you gain from the education you've received here, there's always an opportunity to give something to others. And there's always a need to remain open to new ideas, perspectives and cultures. You wouldn't have succeeded if your preconceptions weren't challenged. I hope that the diversity of the experience you've received, both from fellow students, from fellow researchers, from other people around you, have actually provided more challenges to your ideas and more ways of thinking differently for the future. Openness is fundamental to what we do in research, but it's fundamental to what Monash does, and it's for that reason that Monash has reached out across the world, not just to educate and do research here where we began at Clayton, but to take on the ways we might educate and the ways we might understand research problems when we look at them from Mumbai or Suzhou or Kuala Lumpur. And that's a different perspective. It opens the mind, and it's another value that's very important. But wherever your career takes you from here, whether you stay in Australia, Asia, Europe, the Americas, just know that when you leave, there are 310,000 other Monash alumni that you can find and have contact with, and we know that we have prepared you to work successfully in your field wherever you go, and that we can only do that, have that openness and work across the world if we are prepared to work with others and collaborate. But the final value I would like to invoke today is respect. Because for all the discovery, the ambition, the openness, the willingness to work with others, it all depends fundamentally on respect, and that respect underpins the way we make our ideas serve others. You've been given the privilege of a wonderful education. You are among the most able. You're blessed with the capacity to tackle academic research successfully. They're very powerful advantages. Use them wisely. Be ethical. Be honest. Aspire always to fairness. And most of all, be generous. Be generous with your time, your assessment of others, and the credit you give them. By doing this, you prove yourself worthy of the investment that you, your families, the university, your community have made in you. And while these are serious messages about values, celebrate. On behalf of the university, I offer you my deep congratulations. Celebrate this day. Thank you.
I thank the President and Vice-Chancellor, Margaret Gardner, for her address and now call upon her to pronounce the certification of the candidates.
Mr. Chancellor, I certify to you and to the Council of Monash University that all candidates now to be presented and those others listed in your copy of the graduation program have fulfilled the conditions prescribed by the Council of Monash University for admission to the degrees indicated in the program. Would all candidates for the degrees from the faculties of Arts, Art, Design and Architecture, Business and Economics, Education, Engineering, Information Technology, Law, Medicine, Nursing and Health Sciences and Science, please stand.
With the authority of the Council, I admit you to the degrees to which you are entitled. I also admit to the degrees to which they are entitled those others who are absent today, but are listed in my copy of the graduation program.
Please be seated. Mr. Chancellor, the new graduates will be presented to you by Professor David Kopolov, Pro-Vice-Chancellor, Major Campuses and Student Engagement.
Mr. Chancellor, I present to you graduates from the faculties of Art, Design and Architecture, Arts, Business and Economics, Education, Engineering, Information Technology, Law, Medicine, Nursing and Health Sciences and Science, who have been admitted to the following degrees today. Faculty of Art, Design and Architecture. The following graduates are presented on behalf of the Dean of the Faculty of Art, Design and Architecture. Doctor of Philosophy. For research titled The Event of Painting, Dr. Andrea Bettina Eckersley. For research titled Hiding from the Camera for the Camera, the photographer's subject in self-portraiture, Dr. Shireen Fard. Faculty of Arts. The following graduates are presented on behalf of the Dean of the Faculty of Arts. Doctor of Philosophy, for research titled Advertising and Algorithms, the Obvious Gains and Hidden Losses of Using Software with Intelligent Agent Capabilities in the Creative Process of Art Directors and Copywriters, Dr. Richard Lindsay John Barker. For research titled The Construction of Desire, Young Gay Men and Media in Japan, Dr. Thomas Martin Stanley Bodenet. For research titled Characterization in Ward's opera The Crucible, Melodic Interpretation of Salem's Witches and Their Accusers via Historical Accounts and Miller's Play, Dr. Julia Margaret Cornwell McKean. For research titled Parent, Know Thyself, Genre, Materiality and Advice Books for Parents in Early Colonial Australia circa 1788 to 1850, Dr. Michelle Gabriella De Stefani. For research titled Muslim Masculinities in Australia, Negotiating Manhood and Muslim Identity in Contemporary Australia, Dr. Rahbad Hedayat. For research titled Nijuk Ni Katichen, Look, Listen, Learn, Nungar and Kuri's Interpreting the Silences of a Colonial Archive, Dr. Sharon Allison Hubner. For research titled All the Colours of the Dark, Genre, Modernity and the Italian Giallo Film, Dr. Alexia Canis. For research titled Examining Flow Through Performance, the Sinulog Festival in Cebu, Philippines, Dr. Regan Mequez. For research titled The Philosophical Structure of the Evaluation of its Thesis, Comparative Aesthetics Between Europe and Japan, Dr. Tomo Nakamura. For research titled From Mass to Politicized Concert Mass, a study of the transition of the Mass from music for the Eucharist to ideological concert music, Dr. Stephanie Joan Rock. Doctor of Philosophy, Theatre Performance, for research titled Australian Women Playwrights, The Sacrifice of Oriel Gray, Dr. Merilee Moss. Faculty of Business and Economics. The following graduates are presented on behalf of the Dean of the Faculty of Business and Economics. Doctor of Philosophy, for research titled The Role of Entrepreneurship in Community-Based Tourism, Dr. Melfon Angweni Mayaka. For research titled The Impact of the PCAOB's Oversight Program on Non-US Audit Firms, Dr. John Charles Webster. For research titled An Econometric Study of Alcohol Consumption and Associated Risky and Antisocial Behaviour, Dr. Wu Yang. Faculty of Education. The following graduate is presented on behalf of the Dean of the Faculty of Education. Doctor of Philosophy. For research titled Revolution Rock, a study of a public pedagogy of protest music, Dr. John Haycock. Faculty of Engineering. The following graduates are presented on behalf of the Dean of the Faculty of Engineering. Doctor of Philosophy. For research titled Corrosion Fatigue and Stress Corrosion Cracking of Magnesium Alloys in a Simulated Physiological Environment, Dr. Sajjad Jafari. For research titled Engineering Approaches for Three-Dimensional Single-Cell Imaging, Dr. Boyin Liu. Faculty of Information Technology. The following graduates are presented on behalf of the Dean of the Faculty of Information Technology. Doctor of Philosophy. For research titled Investigating Factors Affecting Customer Satisfaction and the Utilization of E-Marketplaces, Dr. Fahad Ali S. Alghani. For research titled An Architectural Framework for Analysing Computer System Security, Dr. Arayo Mark Credo. For research titled Corporate Record Keeping, the evidence-based for sustainability reporting by multinational enterprises, Dr. Josefina Hubertina Wilhelmina Johanna de Cerno. For research titled Multimodal Mimetic Framework Using H-core for Low-Resolution Protein Structure Prediction, Dr. Rumana Nazmul. Faculty of Law. The following graduates are presented on behalf of the Dean of the Faculty of Law. Doctor of Philosophy. For research titled The Rule of Law and the Australian Constitution, Dr. Lisa Burton Crawford. Dr. Crawford is awarded the Molly Holman Medal for the best doctoral thesis for the Faculty of Law. For research titled From Aqua Nullius to Aqua Minimus, the legal recognition in Victoria of Indigenous rights to participate in the management of inland water resources. Lessons from Aotearoa, New Zealand, Dr. Catherine Mary O'Brien. Faculty of Medicine, Nursing and Health Sciences. The following graduates are presented on behalf of the Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, Nursing and Health Sciences. Doctor of Medicine, for research titled Fetal Therapy, Dr. Andrew Grant Edwards. Doctor of Philosophy, for research titled Across the Gulf, a historical and psychological study of differences of opinion in the reception of the Second Vatican Council, 1962 to 1965 in Australia, Dr. Janet Crosby Curtis. For research titled Raising Awareness of Bowel Cancer Through Workplace Screening Programs, Dr. Jane Amanda Heyman. For research titled Using the Local Immune Response to Identify Vaccine and Diagnostic Candidates for Asian Schistosomiasis, a novel phage display approach, Dr. Christopher Garth Hosking. For research titled A Study of Mechanisms Linking Type 2 Diabetes Mellitus and Dementia, Dr. Christopher Moran. For research titled Intellectual Disability, Criminal Offending and Victimisation, Dr. Margaret Nixon. For research titled Extension and Application of Cognitive Work Analysis to Improve Pedestrian Safety at Rail Level Crossings, Dr. Gemma Jenny Megan Reid, Dr. Reid, is awarded the Molly Holman Medal for the Best Doctoral Thesis for the Faculty of Medicine, Nursing and Health Sciences. For research titled Programmed Cell Death in Legionella Infection, Dr. Mary Helen Spear. For research titled Gippsland Mental Health Vacation School, Development and Investigation of the Impact of a Targeted Short-Term Intervention to Address Mental Health Workforce Shortages in Gippsland, Victoria, Australia, Dr. Keith Paul Sutton. For research titled HIV and HCV Diagnosis and Treatment for People Who Inject Drugs, Dr. Nicholas Walsh. Faculty of Science. The following graduates are presented on behalf of the Dean of the Faculty of Science. Doctor of Philosophy. For research titled Capillary Electrochromatography of Polar Compounds towards an improved understanding of fundamentals of retention and separation efficiency, Dr. Ahmed Faris Ali Al-Hussein. For research titled Stratigraphy, Geochemistry and Origin of Products of Complex Volcanic Centres, Newer Volcanics Basaltic Field, Victoria, Dr. Julie Boyce. For research titled Synthesis, Development and Investigation of Conducting Polymer-Based Heterojunctions as Photostimulated Electrocatalysts, Dr. Matthew Peterson Gustafsson. For research titled Asymmetric Studies Towards the Synthesis of Trifluoromethylisostatin and salvinorin A, Dr. Luke Manning Horsfall. For research titled Nucleophilic Catalysis of Compounds in the Ester Oxidation State, Dr. Marcin Jakub Kowalczyk. For research titled Autoparatopisms of Latin Squares, Dr. Jaima Mendes. For research titled Blast Furnace Coke Substitutes from Victorian Brown Coal, Dr. Mamun Molla. Mr. Chancellor, that concludes the presentation of graduates from the faculties of Art Design and Architecture, Arts, Business and Economics, Education, Engineering, Information Technology, Law, Medicine, Nursing and Health Sciences, and Science.
We now have the opportunity to hear from one of our own talented musicians from the Sir Zelman Cowen School of Music. Please welcome Mr. Ziggy Johnston to the ceremony, who will be performing Capriccio Arabe by Francisca Tarrega.
Well, I'd like to thank Ziggy Johnston for that wonderful performance. Music feeds the soul. I now invite the new Chancellor of Monash University, Mr. Simon McKeon, to present the graduation address.
Thank you, Vice-Chancellor. Her Excellency, the Honourable Linda Dessau, AM, Governor of Victoria and visitor of this university, and thank you, Governor, for those very kind words earlier. Mr. Yehudi Blasher, PSM, Deputy Chancellor, Dr. Christine Nixon, APM, Deputy Chancellor, and my other fellow councillors. Dr. Jerry Ellis AO, former Chancellor, Mr. Graham Goldsmith, Chancellor of Swinburne University, Mr. George Pappas AO, Chancellor of Victoria University, Professor Margaret Gardner AO, President and Vice-Chancellor. The many other very distinguished guests who I ought to acknowledge individually, but time prevents, graduates, colleagues and guests. As the Vice-Chancellor just said, this is my first graduation ceremony as Chancellor. It is a truly extraordinary privilege and I look forward to being present, of course, for many more. And I am grateful that the university has allowed me today to invite here some members of my family and other good friends. In my wife Heather's and my blended family, I'm proud to say that we have 6 sons, 4 of whom have either completed degrees or are still enrolled at Monash. And I'd like to begin by echoing the Vice-Chancellor's words earlier. To those of you who are graduating today, it's been good to talk briefly with each of you, congratulations. Today you've entered the ranks of a small but highly prestigious and influential community, the fewer than 1% of Australia's population who have a PhD. And as with all prestigious societies, the price for admission has been high. Some of you have been, as you said, fortunate enough to blaze through your PhD in the minimum 3 years. For others, it's taken considerably longer. For many of you, perhaps most of you, there were times when you despaired that you'd ever make it at all. And no doubt there are family and friends celebrating with you today who privately wondered the same thing. Whatever the path that brought you here, graduation is the fulfilment of years of endeavour. And after so much time in the single-minded pursuit of that endeavour, I'm sure many of you are still navigating your next steps. Perhaps you're doing so with trepidation. Well, allow me then to reassure you, you are wise to be trepidatious. In recent months, we've heard repeated warnings that the world is at grave risk of entering its second economic crisis in less than a decade. Last month, NASA reported that global temperatures in February soared to unprecedented levels, the largest warm temperature anomaly of any month since records began in 1880. The outlook seems even more precarious when we look at the employment market of the next decade. And this is where it'll affect many of you as graduates heading into the workforce most directly. In the last few years, we have watched technological change unfold at a scale and pace more wondrous than at any previous time in human history. We've seen the arrival of 3D printing, of which Monash is genuinely a world leader. Private companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin are now successfully and regularly flying rockets to and from space. Just the other evening, my stepson Tom, an aerospace engineering student here, shared with me the truly remarkable vision of a SpaceX rocket landing vertically, nose up, on a relatively small barge rocking around on a disturbed ocean. Electric cars are now no longer the stuff of science fiction, and there is widespread anticipation within the automotive industry that driverless vehicles will be here within 5 years. And only a few weeks ago, a computer program developed by Google's artificial intelligence arm beat one of the world's greatest players of the board game Go by 4 games to 1. It's great that the human won, I guess. These are changes that are already unfolding. that in the years to come, exponential growth in computing power and big data, coupled with globalisation and demographic change, will bring economic disruption in a way that we can barely conceive of today. Last year, the National Centre of Excellence on Information and Communications Technology examined the jobs that currently exist in Australia and concluded that around 40% of them were likely to be computerised or automated just in the next 15 years. A team led by Professor Bernard Salt from Curtin University Business School this year put it more likely at 49%. New jobs will appear to replace those that are lost, as they always do. And as PhD graduates of Monash, experts in your chosen field, you are among the best prepared for whatever lies ahead. And you will be, fortunately, among the least impacted. But this is still the future landscape that will shape your career. It's no coincidence that our university's motto, Ancora Imparo, means I am always learning. The leaders of the new paradigm are those who are always learning, who are always participating, not only in their own careers, but in the most important issues of the day. The ones who have the courage to question the accepted answers, the ones who have the confidence to take measured risks, and the ones who persist in the face of failure. In a few decades' time, on current trends, the world population will be approaching 10 billion. Issues that are only just starting to emerge today could be at the centre of political and public discourse. Conflicts, serious conflicts over the scarcity of basic resources like water and oil, will add to the ongoing challenges of income disparity, climate and environmental damage, and of fractured political decision-making. The social, the economic, and indeed the ethical need for expertise that can help us to solve these challenges will only grow stronger. And to borrow a phrase from our Prime Minister, there has never been a better or more exciting time for PhD graduates. Through hard work, you have earned a qualification that opens up opportunities available only to a tiny proportion of people. But never forget that that qualification is also a privilege, and privilege brings with it responsibility. And above all, remember that it is those who have the courage to go out and create the future they want to see who actually determine what the future will be. This message has always been at the heart of Monash University. Equip yourself for life, not solely for your own benefit, but for the benefit of the whole community. And so many of our greatest alumni have, of course, been examples of this. People such as Marilyn Warren, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Victoria, such as Tan Lee, technology entrepreneur and former Young Australian of the Year, Professor Mick Dodson, the Indigenous Australian barrister, academic, social justice advocate and 2009 Australian of the Year, Carol Schwartz, a pioneer in developing social enterprises, World Vision CEO and anti-pokies campaigner Reverend Tim Costello, the human rights advocate Julian Burnside QC, Bill Shorten, Peter Costello, Cathy McGowan, numerous other state and federal politicians across the political spectrum, and so the list goes on. We may not agree with all of their views and beliefs, but they're each individuals who have been educated at and influenced by this great institution and have been prepared to make a strong contribution and at the same time to absorb the cost and indeed the pain associated with such a role. And for every one of them, Monash has many, many more who are making their own no less valuable contribution, a little further away from the public eye to the ongoing improvement of mankind. And so whatever category you ultimately fall into, I do wish you all the very, very best for your success and achievements. Thank you.
Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to give the vote of thanks to the Chancellor for this graduation address. And normally it would be the Chancellor giving the vote of thanks to another person giving the graduation address. We are privileged here today to hear the graduation address of the Chancellor at his first ceremony, and I think it shows you why the Council was so thrilled to have Mr. Simon McKean become the Chancellor. You see the breadth of vision, the openness to the challenges of the world, the willingness to think about what is possible for people and for this university, and you also hear the warmth and the concern for each and every one of the students who are here before you, and you saw it, and his concern that they are able to make the very best of what we offer here at the university. So I think you heard in that graduation speech the essence of the man, the vision and the warmth, and we welcome him as the new Chancellor. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President and Vice-Chancellor. Graduates, as you leave the ceremony, remember that you are not leaving this university, no matter how far you move away from this place and this time. As alumni of the university, you are joined to the university and to each other by a link that cannot be broken, and we very much hope will be strongly maintained. I urge you to keep in touch with the university alumni group. The alumni page in your copy of the graduation program is a guide to whatever we have to share with you, wherever you may be. In congratulating you upon your achievements, I particularly want to acknowledge the contribution that the academic and professional staff of the university have made in ensuring your presence at this ceremony. It is not always possible to give public recognition to their hard work and their dedication, but I would ask you now to take this opportunity of showing them your appreciation. I would also ask you to recognise your partners, your family and your friends who have given you their support. And would you please stand and turn and show them your appreciation. Thank you. Refreshments will be served in the foyer of the Robert Blackwood Hall, and I extend a warm welcome to everyone to join the new graduates there. The procession, which of course now includes the new graduates, will now leave the hall. I'd ask members of the audience to remain standing at their seats until all graduates have left. This ceremony is now at an end. Thank you.